My name is Jutta, and I have been so happy to be able to be part of the Life Coach University Pay It Forward platform, because I think this is what it is about: sharing stories, sharing our experiences, sharing our insights with other people so that we can all benefit. We need to spread the sparks to enable and allow everyone to be part of this development process that we're all in together in this globe right now. So my name is Jutta Jerlich, and I've been teaching the art of collaboration and co-creation for about 16 plus years, being involved in creating the e-learning center and the entrepreneurial startup center at the Technical University of Vienna. Takes me back 25 years ago when we were in these processes of allowing access to many more people than those who can just physically be there. That's for me the power of the technology that we have at hand as humanity right now. My talks at the Life Coach University are all about finding those positive parts that are in those experiences that we have and that we interpret as something that has gone wrong, as failure, as mistakes, or whatever kind of words that you can find also in your language. And here's already where it starts. We have very, very different definitions about what those words mean, but they're very, very close to our identities and to our hearts, and that's why they're affecting us big time. So today I would like to talk about self-doubts and how self-doubts are actually part of mistakes and failures to happen. I just came out of 2 mentorship sessions where this was part of the situation. These mentees wanted to get my insights or maybe some ways of how you can deal with those questions that our inner voices are throwing at us. Sometimes it's not just a question, it's just like, hey, you're just not good enough for that, or you don't deserve this. And this is like an immediate switch that takes away all the energy and power that we have. We are kind of pulling the plug below ourselves. Do you remember such a situation maybe right now? I've myself experienced this earlier this year, where a situation where I basically just gave in to not having the power to change the situation in that moment led me to have fever the next day and be sick. And it was really a very, very impressive experience for me to see that immediate consequence when we do that. And then the realization that I actually always have the power to change a situation by taking myself out of it. And I didn't do that. And this realization changes the way I look at this situation, the way we can look at any kind of a situation by, well, we could have just done that step, right? And then it's not about that fault anymore. It's my own fault. I didn't do it. But it's like changing this perspective that allows us to take these 2 steps back and somehow come into a position where you're an observer of yourself. It allows you to kind of hover above yourself in a situation at the same time while you're in it. It sounds maybe quite strange and magical, but it does really work. The only thing is that we have to be very, very, very present to be able to manage that, because it's kind of like, we are in two, we are there twice, kind of like we're split in two. We are ourselves in a situation, and at the same time, we also watch ourselves. But we can train that. I think if you have the courage to get into such a state, maybe while you were climbing, while you're doing something that allows you to check how is this actually possible. And now I would like to come, of course, to this context of, mistakes or failure, something that happens. How does this relate to that? Well, I believe that if we are in a situation and sometimes our minds are just somewhere else, we're doing something, but something is going on in our unconscious part that is just keeping the processes that we normally need to be present busy with something else. And that's where things happen. Like you were driving and you were going somewhere and you were coming out of a street, and then suddenly there's a guy right behind you and you didn't see that person at all. It's really important to not go into this judging process in the sense of, oh God, what an idiot. How could he not see me, even though it was me not seeing him? Or if somebody else was watching and just telling you, well, that guy just sped up, was speeding up. Or you think of situations where, an accident actually happens. Thanks God it didn't. That situation I just described to you. But something actually happens and there's people watching, and if you ask them afterwards, they will all have different stories of what actually happened. 5 people, 5 stories, sometimes even more. You'll have more than the number of people in terms of stories. That means there are so many aspects that we miss if we are not present, right? So, and that's actually an example of you being in 2 spaces at the same time as well. And I'm just realizing that, telling you about this analogy somehow that allows us to visualize this. So when we are not fully present, our mind is actually also somewhere else. And that limits the capacity and that ability that we have to take in the situation, that full situation that we have at hand. I'm seeing that there's some questions coming in, and I'm just gonna take that up right now. Thank you very much for your statement. Thank you so much. I love your talk. So honest, so down to earth, so encouraging. It's always really, really nice, of course, to get positive feedback. I think actually it's even more than that. It's very essential that we can get that feedback from people around us to be able to recognize if we're actually doing something that is of benefit to others. The second statement here is, I always hear your voice in my head. One quick second. There's always a problem arranging. Very sorry. I'm at my mom's house today, and as I was just talking to someone about mentorship as well, it's yeah, you know, humanity is catching up with us, even though we have all the technological tools. So yeah, you get a little bit of an insight into my home. Okay, coming back to that statement, I always hear your voice in my head that failure is not a failure, but it's a learning opportunity, and that keeps me going. It gives me lots of hope to continue. Thank you very much. This is really great to hear, but let's dive in even deeper, right? Today's intent from my side is really to analyze what's happening in our heads when we're in these situations that we think we can, you know, headline as failure. We can call it failure. Let's go back, and you know, our brains have the capacity to go back in time. We actually have wonderful technology right there in our body. Our brains, our senses record everything. So if you close your eyes, you can actually go back a couple of minutes, or you can go back to a situation that caused you to think it was failure. What actually happened there? Where have you been? Where was your mind? Where were your thoughts? Where was your body? What was actually happening just before that, maybe, that led you to be derailed, right? And rather than going down the pathway of self-doubt, in the sense of being judging, you know, putting us down, saying, well, you know, you have not been there. You were half asleep, or you were thinking of that fight that you just had, or you were engaged in whatever thoughts they were, rather than judging ourselves and putting us down in this exact moment when we find out that is actually our fault to not be present. We need to go into this observation position and understand and be kind to ourselves, in the sense of, well, you know, you just had this fight. You should have, I'm again in this wording, right? Should have. You could have, you know, maybe it would have been better for me to take some time to digest, to take a minute, to take 30 seconds, to let whatever has been happening to me before I got into that situation that turned out to be a failure, before that, to just kind of come back to myself, to be able to let a feeling go, to do whatever is needed. And that's how I came to that solution from my side, in the sense of, you know, being slow is the new fast. Why? Because we need time. We need just more time. Something in this universe, it's actually not the universe, but these systems humans have created keep on pressuring us constantly. It's like we're constantly under pressure. We're like, we need to do this, we need to do that. The next thing is here, my to-do list. Oh my God, I'm not following through. And I can so much relate to that because I am just like that, and everybody is. Is there, if there is somebody who's telling you that's not relevant to them, it's just a big plain lie. This is how we are built. This is the human design. This is how we function. And if we are constantly under pressure, we cannot function anymore. We need to bring in peace, quiet, and space to be able to bridge into something else. We need to stop one thing, let something go, let it play out to get into another thing. And that's the situations people are telling me. When I work with my speakers who share their stories of failure, that's what they're telling me. They were not present. They had a very bad day. They knew that little voice was there saying, hey, be careful, hey, but it was so fast. It's like a split of a second. And that voice is gone. It's so, so easy to miss. It's so easy to miss. I can just repeat that and repeat it and repeat it. And it's a real art to capture those little voices inside our heads that are warning us every day, every moment. We have this guidance from the universe, from ourselves, from other people around us that unconditionally care for us. We have those inputs. We just need to capture them and collect them. I hope that makes sense, what I've been talking about just now. So let me come back to another statement in the chat. We seem to grow up in a culture of self-doubt. What can we do in our communities and families that foster self-belief and self-confidence? Yes, I'm fully with you. I feel that we have built a system that just feeds into this self-doubt everywhere. What we can do about that? Well, I feel we can just be aware of that and call it out. If you see people going into self-doubt, just set it straight. If you capture that inside yourself, if you are, noticing that, ooh, there's this voice inside me that is actually putting me down, call it up and say, no, this is not correct. I want to reword these sentences maybe that came up. And I actually just learned a really, really nice way, or a very good idea. I've not tried it out myself, but it sounds to me that it's something really useful. So that thing that we could do when we have this negative, self-talk going on in our minds would be the following. You create something like a sacred space for you, maybe in your garden or on the pathway of a hike that you do towards, in the woods or somewhere. You can also create that actually in your mind. I've once told that to a friend of mine who was really struggling with the topic, and I said, well, you need to have some peace and time and space for now where you don't think about that topic. Just imagine that you have a side room inside yourself where you can close the door, and that situation that kind of keeps you entangled with and that you are struggling with, you put that situation in a picture, in a painting, in an oil painting. Put it inside there and then take that frame and that painting in the frame, you take it into that room and you turn it around and you lean it against the wall. And then you also close the door. So it's not that we are disregarding this situation that we are in. We are just putting a little break on it, and we are putting it into that room that we can feel free for a bit, reorganize ourselves and feel our strength, and then come back to that situation, maybe with a new look, with a new power as well, with new energy, so that we can actually really tackle that situation. So this is something that we could do. And I think I started with another kind of a tip for you, what to do with those negative self-talk that we have. Find that sacred space. So if that is a room, or it is a picture of a beautiful fountain, or a place that you really, really feel at home with your emotions, with your heart and soul, picture that in your mind, or actually create it somewhere. And whenever those self-talk, this negative self-talk or self-doubts come up, you recognize it, you capture it, and you send it to that place. You send it to Earth. It reconnects with Earth. And that is a way to turn such energies into positive energy again. And I really want to try that actually myself. My mind is still going through different places that kind of visualize that sacred space for me. And maybe I'll even find a place in the nature somewhere where I can create that space to send my negative self-talk to. So share with me if you're, going through with trying this out. Share with me how that works for you. And I will definitely share with you how it works out for me. There's another statement that I would like to share with you. It says here, I had an aha moment when you said that feedback is essential. Imagine a world where we are taught to give and offer feedback to others that only inspire and empower them forward. Too often we give feedback that puts other people down and keeps them small. Exactly. That's what is part of my programs. We need to learn how to give positive feedback. Somehow we have only learned in school that all the feedback we are getting is negative, right? You are being shown your mistakes. You're getting back your books and it's all red of, things that are wrong. Well, that's the wrong focus. Sorry to tell you, and I'm a teacher myself, so teachers need to take that in. We need to focus on what has gone well, what is being done really well, because that's what we need as the feedback to understand where our strengths are. How do you expect anyone to find out what they're good in or what they're good at if we keep constantly, just showing them what they're bad at? There's so many, options here that is not like, okay, then I'll figure out myself what I'm good at, right? No, this is why we need feedback. We need other people who unconditionally tell us in a very honest and open way, but also in a very respectful way, that we can receive feedback. We are only able to do that if we balance it out and we are at least talking about the positive and the negative together. If you are in a situation where people from different cultures come together, then it's a kind of a sensitive situation as well, because communication around failure or communication around feedback as such can be very sensitive and is done in a different way in different cultures. And we cannot know about the cultures of other people. I know there's a big body of research and programs and teachings about that. And I have gone into that direction myself. But I've come to the conclusion we have to be culturally sensitive. We have to be very much aware and present with every single person. We cannot put people in boxes. Right? Do you want to be put in a box? How is any person that you have just met, or even anyone that you have known for a long time, how is a person able to grasp everything about you? We keep on changing every day. Humans learn something every day. So it's kind of like trying to hit a moving target. So I believe we just have to be very respectful and open to keep on adapting on the spot while you are talking. And that is something that takes a lot of commitment and energy to do that. So I wish you to have people around you who want to give you feedback, who want to give you input about what you're good at and what they see as a critical element of only, a value that only you are bringing to this world. I wish you lots of feedback like that. That's the only way we can recognize ourselves and form that identity, that truth, that essence that we actually are. Coming back to my starting point, I would very much like to bring up the topic of self-doubt again. Actually, and I've just been reminded of that last week. I always refer to nature, right, and to animals. Animals don't have self-doubt. They don't have that. So we can take our pets, dogs and cats and snails or whatever it is you have as a pet, as an example on how we can learn about this one thing that we have as humans, this self-doubt, this negative talk that we have, on how to kind of set that aside. So I hope that I've given you some valuable insights today and would like to close the session with thanking the Life Coach University, the platform, everybody who is supporting it, Deanne for creating it and making it part of our lives. Thank you for your statements and your questions. See you again next time at the end of the month for the PIF Talk. My name is Jutta and I'm wishing you a very, very happy day. Whatever time zone you're in and whatever time is left in your day. Talk to you very soon. Take care.